As well as being Director of the Careers Group, University of London, I'm also President of AGCAS, which is the voice of higher education, careers and employability professionals. What that means is that I'm in charge of the organisation that all higher education career services in the country belong to, and many of the staff that work in those services also belong to. And I wanted just to say that to start with, because I knew that we were going to be talking a little bit about unpaid internships, and I wanted to introduce to you the position statement from the higher education career services across the country, position statement about internships. As you can see, it's got a really snappy URL if you want to find it, but if you actually want to find it rather more easily, just go to the AGCAS website and search for position statements in the documents section, and you will then see the sort of position statement that has been made by higher education career services about internships, and particularly about the thorny issue of unpaid internships. If anybody wants to talk to me about that afterwards, happy to talk to them. I think generally speaking, higher education career services would encourage employers to pay at least the minimum wage. That way you can ensure that you get the fullest talent pool to choose from. Otherwise, if you don't pay the minimum wage, in effect what you're saying is only the rich need apply. But moving on to the Careers Group, which I'm Director of, and just in case you don't know who the Careers Group are, we were originally set up to provide the career services in this great list of institutions here, and for those of you who don't want to read it, here's the same information but in pictures. We were originally set up to provide the career services in these institutions, but that was over 100 years ago, and we didn't stand still. We have become, in fact, an organisation that delivers a lot more. So, as well as delivering career services in institutions such as UCL and King's and Goldsmiths, we also provide a whole range of employability services to over 200 universities, colleges and schools. This is everything from training for their staff, delivering websites to help career development activities, whole range of products and services that we deliver. We also, as you have heard today, provide recruitment services to employers, large and small. I mean, obviously, most large employers have their own graduate recruitment departments. They can do most of it themselves. But we are very conscious that in London, we serve a lot of small and medium-sized organisations who don't have dedicated graduate recruitment staff, and we will provide a lot of help and assistance to them to develop their own programmes, be it student internships, which are more about training, or graduate internships, which are often about placements, or long-term placements. We also, little known to many, provide a lot of organisational development work and outplacement and career development services. So if there's any doctors in the house that have rung up the BMA career service, you're actually getting us rather than necessarily the BMA. So we do provide a lot of white brand activities in the careers world. I do feel a bit sorry for employers at the moment. If your world is anything like mine, then you are being absolutely inundated by offers of assistance. Never a day goes by in my office, but somebody doesn't ring me up to tell me that they have just invented and developed the product, the service, which will solve all of my problems. It will get every student and graduate into employment. It will find all the employers that we actually want for them just at the click of a button or at the touch of something. Because at the moment, employability, and particularly employability of the young, is actually high in the news and therefore big business. And it can be really difficult, I think, to distinguish between the various offers. And there are a lot of extremely good and extremely worthwhile products and services in this market. Lots of people out there who know what they're doing, who can help you if you want to recruit graduates or students for short-term traineeships or whatever. Lots of organisations, many of whom are fantastic, many of whom are a bunch of charlatans and just want to make a few quick buck. And it's really difficult to actually decide which are the good ones and which are the bad ones. But what I suppose I can say is that I thought I would speak this up because I was in some meetings with some people discussing university and industry collaboration. And it comes down to the fact that academic institutions, particularly universities, We speak Chinese, and employers basically speak Russian. And what happens when you bring the two together is, well, in fact, one of the vice-chancellors said, well, of course, if you put employers and university people in a room together, it is a problem, because it's like having people who only speak Chinese and people who only speak Russian in the room together. There was a short silence, and somebody said, yes, but I do find that a lot of alcohol helps. Now, in ages of austerity, of course, we can't actually provide the alcohol anymore, but what we can do is to provide the interpreter. And I think one of the things that really you should look at when people approach you with their products and services is to say, does this person know a lot about the employment side of things, or do they know a lot about the university side of things? And if they don't know a lot about either side, I don't know that I would touch them with a barge pole. Because I think that it is complicated, particularly if you're a small company, to actually make an entree into the world of universities. Universities are a complicated organisation. They can sometimes be very opaque to penetrate. It can be very difficult to actually get your message across to students and graduates. So it's a really useful idea to think, can these people help me get my message across to students and graduates? Do they understand that? Or indeed, the other side, do they know a lot about graduate recruitment so they can help me on that side? Not surprisingly, I suppose, I would say that as a careers service, we can add that added value, because we do, the bit that we can offer is the understanding of how to attract the student and the graduate. And under this scheme that you've all been hearing so much about today, one of the things we can help you do is to create the right ad in the right place. Basically, if we have an understanding of the kind of student or the kind of graduate that you want, we can actually work out what's the best place for you to, what's the best way for you to get that message across to the kinds of people that you want. Is it through departmental contacts? Is it through particular job boards? Is it through a national job board? All sorts of different ways of doing it. You've heard about the additional promotion, the fairs have been mentioned, but there's lots of other events and activities that go on around the careers and employability agenda within institutions where your internships, your opportunities can be cleverly promoted if you talk to the right people. One of the things that Paul said I needed to mention when I was talking about the support that we provide to employers was that we will defend you from eager candidates. Some of the internships, or particularly the popular ones, will actually generate inquiries from 200, 300 students. And as a small or a medium-sized employer with no dedicated staff, it's really useful to have a sort of intermediary who can field those inquiries so that the phone doesn't ring off the hook in your office. Of course, we screen and sift the applications, we will conduct telephone interviews, and at the end of the day, the target would be to shortlist, say, 4 or 5 interviewees per internship that you've got. But I suppose one of the things that's great from the point of view of you using a career service or a service that's involving a career service is we also will try and give support to the interviewees. So we will give them some help with their preparation for interviews so that when they turn up to see you, they're already quite well prepared and they're not actually wasting your time. And of course nowadays, with the amount of recruitment legislation that we've actually all got to look at, we will actually do all of the legal checks on people's right to work and check all of the documentation is in place. And of course, once they've arrived, we also do try to actually continue to support both the intern and the employer. All of the interns that we have placed thus far will have a regular contact within the Careers Group internship team, so that they've always got somebody to get in touch with if there's any difficulties or problems. But in addition to that, we actually assign them an independent careers consultant. So one of our careers consultants that works within the Careers Group is on hand if they want any impartial or independent guidance about career issues, both during their internship or afterwards. And we also give them quite a lot of pre-resources to try and encourage the interns to get the most out of the internship before they actually turn up. We give them a journal template so that they can actually record their experiences, reflect on what they're learning, the skills and experiences that they're gaining. Similarly, with an employer, you would get a nominated careers group contact. And we also give you a lot of resources. If you've not done internships before, we will give you some advice and help on how to make the best of the interns. You've already heard that it's a really good idea to nominate somebody to be a supervisor or a line manager for the intern. And particularly if you can get buy-in from senior management, that's fantastic, although we appreciate it, that's not always the case. And throughout the internship, it's a really good idea to try and set aside a little bit of time for regular reviews with the intern, so that you can review their progress and they can talk to you about what they're learning. Because at the end of the day, this is a process which is supposed to be a learning experience for the intern, but also an experience where they are actually contributing to your business. And we can also encourage and assist you to write an end of internship report. It's not a requirement, you don't have to write an end of internship report, but again, if you're going to get the most out of it and the intern's going to get the most out of it, just having something tangible that the intern can take away, saying how they've done in this period, is extremely useful. And there's still support after the internship. Of the interns that we've placed over the last year, 50% of those actually led on to permanent positions. I confess that I was very sceptical before we started this whole process. I actually didn't think that we would have such a success on our hands, and I certainly didn't think that our internships would lead on to so many permanent positions. But we have in fact seen that, and indeed even those that didn't get permanent positions with their companies that they had internships with have actually gone on to get permanent positions elsewhere using the experience that they had from interns. I think I should explain to you that the Careers Group Internship Programme I'm talking about now was a graduate internship scheme. We've only just opened the summer internship scheme, which is more about gaining experience rather than necessarily gaining permanent positions. One of the things that we will do is to help interns articulate the value of their experience, because very often, even though the experience has been very valuable, they don't necessarily know how to promote that in their CVs or application forms, and we will help them. And again, the careers consultant is on hand for anybody who doesn't get a permanent job or who has had any kind of bad or negative experience, and they are on hand to give them the support. So we do, through the Step Careers Group scheme, try as much as we can to support both the employer and the student or graduate to actually have the most positive and beneficial experience as they go through the scheme. And the careers consultants who've been involved in these have actually given me these few tips to hand on. It's very important to remember that the interns, this is not about work experience from the intern. They really want to work and make a real contribution. They want to come as an employee, they want to be seen as an employee, even if in law they're not necessarily an employee. But they also want to learn and develop skills. So as well as doing a job, they want to be actually pushing themselves and learning new skills, developing new skills. And we would say, if you can, consider a sort of learning contract. That sounds a bit formal, but what it really means is sit down with the intern when they first arrive and say, what do you want to get out of this, of the next 4, 6, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, how many weeks it is? What is it that you want to get out of it? Is there some way that we can make sure that we give you the right experiences, so at the end of the period you can go away feeling that you've really benefited from it? Do try and allow just a little weekly slot with the supervisor to sit down and reflect on what happened the week before, because it is a learning experience. And one of the things that we actually beat into the heads of our interns is that it is a two-way process, and the interns can't just sit there and expect the employer to give them everything. They do actually have to make things happen too and be proactive, and I was very glad to hear from our 2 employers that had been their experience of the interns that they had taken. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you very much for being such a really attentive audience. There's tea and coffee and biscuits and things across the way. We hope you will stay around and network and talk to us. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.